Next up, we'll have Finance Committee report. The chair is Committee Chair Joe Wright. Are you ready to do that?
I am, thank you.
I know I'm behind. There you go.
Okay. I'm going to go through the items from our April 13th Finance Committee. First, I would like to ask the board members and director of UCAS to come forward.
Are you asking the chair to acknowledge them, to
Oh.
invite them to come forward?
Yes, I'm sorry,
All right.
Chair.
Okay.
Chair, may I invite the director of UCAS and any of their board members who are present? I believe several.
Yes, you may. Will you please come forward? And if you'll, are they going to participate in a discussion or? what?
Just briefly, we included in our minutes here that we had asked them, after requests from Terry Shoemaker and the USBA and USSA, we asked UCAS to consider adding 2 additional representatives from the district back to its board. And so I think in light of that, I think it's appropriate to ask where they are on that, especially because they're kind enough to join us before we have a full vote.
Can I throw something out there really quick? Well, let me have Board Member Hanson speak, and then I'll speak. I was at that meeting, and this is kind of surprising that we're doing this right now. So, Board Member Hanson.
Hi. Terry Shoemaker talked a little bit about the fact that there was, they used to have 3 members. Each district had a person, and then they consolidated, and they just had one, and they rotated, and the districts would prefer to go back to the old system. And so I just suggested, it was not an action item at all. I just asked them if they would be willing to consider that. And they said, yes, that they'd be willing to consider that. It wasn't an action item. It wasn't saying that they had to do it. It wasn't anything. I just said, would you be willing to consider that? So that's what the minutes should say. And like I said, I don't think it's an action item for the board or that they need to respond. We just asked them if they would be willing to consider it.
Okay, Chair.
Board Member Hanson, do you think it's appropriate that we just maybe ask them to give us an update on where they are on that?
Well, it's not up to Board Member Hanson, but we have committee meetings for committee meetings, and then we bring forth the action to the board here. And if you wanted to get that report, it would be good to have it come back into the committee meeting. If you want that, if you want to have, if you're interested in what they're doing, but they're here, so we'll entertain, I guess we'll, because they've come all the way up and they're going to turn their mics on. Looks like they're ready to say something, so let's allow them to speak to what isn't a motion. But it was a comment and suggestion in a dialogue that happened in finance.
Thank you. My
If you
name
would, please
is-
introduce yourself.
Sure.
and-
My name is Dr. Anna Trevino. I am the principal and a founding member of the Utah County Academy of Sciences. And this is one of my board members who has been with us for several years from UVU, Dr. Abraham Tang. We have gone to our board and had a discussion, and then I'm going ahead and deferring to them as the board to make the decision of when they want to put that on their agendas.
Okay. There you go.
It will be on a future meeting. In the next month or two, when we meet, we'll put this on the agenda.
Okay. Is there any other questions that
Can I just
we
make a
have
comment,
regarding
maybe?
that subject?
Just make a
Board-
comment.
Yes.
Thank you for considering that. It was just a suggestion that you might want to consider it since they were concerned about it, but I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Okay. Board Member Reby?
I think we should vote on building expansion today and let their board deal with that other item at another time.
Okay.
Because I don't want to hold up what we've already decided to support as a committee.
Yeah, we're going to, okay. All right, so we don't have any other questions before you. Thank you for being here. Chair Wright.
This is not a charter expansion outside the normal process. I confirmed that with Director Lambert on the State Charter School Board. It is a substantial increase in their students. This is one of the oldest charter schools in the state of Utah, going back to 2004. They've had an extraordinarily successful partnership with UVU. I think they have the highest median ACT of any high school in the state, and they are, as someone who has seen a number of kids go there, I think they're one of the crown jewels in the education system here, and a wonderful collaboration. I wish other higher education institutions were as good as UVU at partnering with the charter school. So I'll stop now. You can probably see where I am on this issue, and the Finance Committee approved it unanimously. So the motion before the board is to approve the UCAS expansion request.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve the UCAS expansion request. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Voting was unanimous.
Next one, R277436, Gang Prevention and Intervention Programs in the School. This is up for its 5-year renewal. We got a new $1.5 million allocation from the last legislative session. People feel like this is working. This program is making a difference in our schools. So we need to continue to administer it, and this allows us to continue to do that. So the motion before the board is the board approve and continue the second draft of R277436 on second and final reading.
Okay, I'm not getting the second graph. What I have in here is that the board approve and
Can I explain?
yeah, please explain.
I noticed that the draft wasn't designated, so this morning I talked with Ben Rasmussen, and he clarified that it is draft 2, which has a definition of gang prevention in it that wasn't in the first draft. So that would be the draft that should have been approved.
Okay, so, all right, thank you. So we have this clarity. So the motion before the board is that the board approve and continue draft 2 of R277-436 on second and final reading. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Voting was unanimous. Please continue.
A third item, this is a little bit cause for celebration. As you appreciate, as a regulatory body, frequently we're just looking at things as they go wrong, and we need to punish or find out problems. Since I joined the state school board 3.5 years ago, I think substantial work by a great staff has changed the number of audit findings for us, ourselves, the Utah State Board of Education, and also the Utah School for Deaf and Blind, which we administer. In this last audit, for the quarter, there was no findings for Utah State Board of Education, and only one for Utah School of Deaf and Blind. And then they are still working hard to get better. We saw a presentation on how they're improving the procurement process. This is really good. This is just really good. I mean, not only should we administer funds well, but we should be an example to the many school districts in our state, and we were not 3.5 years ago. So this is great. No motion here. Next, it is a challenge to attract, recruit, and retain high-quality information technology staff. As someone who uses the information technology for the state school board, including our website, you can all see what happens when we have substantial turnover and changes there. So basically we gave them a directive to show ways how to fix the needs of the IT section and possibly bring in consultants and balance that against full-time staff. So that'll be coming to us again in the future. Next, our child nutrition program. this is a little bit me, so maybe blame me. But once again, we always frequently point out the negative. There are a lot of really cool things happening with child nutrition around the state of Utah in our school districts and our charter schools. We're going to try and make that more front and center. When we find nifty things that you're doing with child nutrition, please bring it to the attention of our staff or our public relations department. We want to get that out there. We want to brag about cool things because a healthy body is in some ways as important as a healthy mind. No motion there. Next, statewide longitudinal, data system grant update. Go ahead and read about that if you'd like in greater detail. I'm going to take the next two together, the necessarily existent small schools or NESS funding update and the pupil transportation funding update. There are no motions here, but we have funds and we administer them. And the problem is whatever kind of formula or criteria we set up, results in people modifying their behavior to that criteria, because that's simply what makes sense. We need to create a good formula on both that's fair, reasonable, equitable, and frankly discourages gaming, because we want districts to act like they do and don't modify their behavior to maximize, the revenue under our formula. So that's hard. And neither have been updated for a while, and our staff will be working on it. We're probably going to have some committees on that as well. Kairos Charter School. You might recall that we shut them down, and they're going to get a report on how they liquidated their assets, their bank accounts, and other things. When a charter school shuts down, for note, everyone, the remaining surplus goes back to the state school board. It cannot simply be, given away or other things. But it is important they resolve all their obligations, to their employees, their landlords, or other people. Next one, Ascent Academy Charter School. Please let minutes reflect that my law firm has a relationship with Ascent Academy, and I, recuse myself on all votes related to it. There is a dispute or misunderstanding, it's hard to say, over the how, if they carried over some of their federal expenditures, whether it was, obligated or whether it was spent. Staff has pointed out to Ascent Academy, they are working with the auditors to resolve that issue. Last, and this is a motion, state fiscal year 2019 base budget review and recommendation for approval.
Hey, hang on one sec before we dive into that.
Okay.
I'm trying to stay up with you, and then I noticed somebody wants to be acknowledged or recognized
Excuse
here,
me.
so that's Board Member Belknap.
So Joel, I have a question about this, this audit that you're talking about with Ascent, and I realize that you're connected to them, but for clarity, if something wasn't done correctly, or we didn't ask the correct questions, or we didn't require the correct procedure, are we just going to go from here and move forward, or are we going to try and reach back? And if we try and reach back, how far are we going to reach back? It seems illogical. It depends on where the issue stems from. And so I would say that we just need to correct it now and move forward. That would just be my thoughts on it.
Well, we don't have if I might speak, we don't have a motion or anything, so your thoughts can be noted because it's going to be coming back to us so we can ask those questions. I know there's more information's coming to us from our staff. Okay, please continue. Is there any other questions on that? Nope. Okay.
So,
State fiscal year budget is next, right?
yes. And I would encourage you to read this. I don't think I can orally explain it as well as it should be. Essentially, we have approximately $1 million in unrestricted funds still available. Staff suggested that we consider using part of it for IT and SAS. So we have, the motion is to, well, and then we're going to move 110,000 to the budget for additional board compensation for meetings in the next fiscal year. Staff will also update the list of member compensated meetings provided at the board meeting to clearly delineate which meetings are eligible for compensation. I know that's been a point of discussion. So some could be and some could not. And we do have budget constraints, and we are still kind of looking to our leadership to, I think, nail that down so that we know, and when you're assigned something that you also know. So the motion that came out of the Finance Committee and is take 700,000 of that, approximately 1 million in unrestricted funds, and allocate 500,000 or 500,000 to IT and 200,000 to student advisory services using the board's ongoing unrestricted state funding. So that's the motion before the board.
Okay. The motion before the board is that we approve the USBE fiscal year 19 base budget with additional action to allocate $500,000 to information technology and $200,000 to student advocacy services using the board's ongoing unrestricted state funding. That is the motion before the board.
Board Member Cummins.
Cummings, or Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
So I just have a couple of questions, if that's okay. This is our base budget for the fiscal year 19, so this is looking forward at our new budget, correct? And so when we talk, the motion for the board is to approve the base budget, and so I'm guessing that this is the first step in that budgeting process where the board will have another opportunity to approve the budget at a later date. Do you know what that is, or?
My understanding is that we're going
This
to
is the
approve
approval?
this budget as is, and we'll constantly amend it
Okay.
and change it as it goes forward. But do you see Deputy Superintendent Scott Jones around, or?
He's on the call.
Oh, he's on a call. Yeah. We
Deborah
just-
Jacobson, Finance Director. Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry.
So I just want to make sure I understand the process of approving the base budget. So this isn't like a budget hearing. This is the approval of the 19 fiscal year base budget. Is that what's
Correct.
this motion is? So this isn't just the preliminary, here's a budget hearing and we'll approve it another date.
This is the actual
approval
budget.
of that budget. Okay. Then can I ask?
Okay, follow up?
So in the information that's up here, this, it said that they addressed the impact of the additional meeting costs that we talked about last month. And then it says moving 110,000 to the board's budget, but it doesn't say where that was moved from.
So in the actual board's budget, what we have allocated is we've broken it out into the individual object codes. So we split it out by personnel cost, current expense cost, indirect cost, things like that. So the 110 currently is in your current expense costs, and the request is to move it from current expense to your personnel cost.
Okay, follow up?
Was there a discussion in the finance committee regarding the long-term impact of moving this 110,000? Because we haven't had a lot of carry forward money in the past. And so if we've created policy and now we're moving money within the budget, have we talked about the long-term impact over the next few years of what this might look like?
No, but there was strong sentiment that our leadership needs to figure it out and start paying us more.
Yeah, I guess I can talk on the chair. There was discussion, and yes, it is tightening things up, but based on the reality of the approved motions from the board, we've got to put the money.
Where
We
belongs.
need to be accountable and put
Yes.
the money there, and we're not sure the unintended consequences moving forward, but we're going to track it. It's not that we're creating a hardship. When there was discussion, is this going to be a hardship? And it appears it is not. It just tightens up some of our flexibility. Did you have a follow-up?
I do have a, sorry. And so there was an additional allocation for $500,000 for information technology, and I was just curious if that was, if they felt like that was a sufficient amount of money to meet the needs that we've struggled with in that
I'll
department.
speak. I'll speak to that. There's never enough money, but based on what we see that our needs are in strengthening our systems and improving our IT, it was a starting point, and that IT and Deputy Superintendent Scott Jones was coming back to finance with a more comprehensive plan on how aggressive they're going to be on bringing those betterments and priority. So if we sense that it's greater, if we need more, then of course we'll look at it and look at our budgets and bring it to the board. But we definitely have to act, and that was a starting point. We have our IT. You want to comment? Am I speaking out of line here? I'm trying to recall.
No.
Okay, will you introduce yourself?
Jared Felt, the IT Director, USBE. The $500,000 was to get us to a point where we're paying the people that we have on staff, get them to a level where they're not leaving for better jobs in the state. And so we did an evaluation of what DTS is paying their people versus what we're paying, and then we've got the state Department of Labor salaries as well, and we're well below what DTS is paying, and they're below what the state is paying as well. So this is to get our staff up to a reasonable salary level, so we can at least stabilize for right now.
Yes.
And just one final comment on this, that I will be voting to approve the base budget because I know that we have to budget for the policy that was passed by us last month. But I do have a concern that we are moving $110,000 of money for board compensation when we have other strategic needs that I think would be more beneficial to the system as a whole. So I just wanted to express that concern, but recognizing that we do have to fund the policy that was passed by the board last month. So.
Okay, let me restate the motion, and the motion is from the Finance Committee is that we approve the USBE fiscal year 19 base budget with additional action to allocate $500,000 to information technology and $200,000 to student advocacy services using the board's ongoing unrestricted state funding. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments, so we'll vote on this. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Voting was unanimous. Thank you, Chair Wright. That concludes your report.